Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here, and in today's video, we are tracking a very powerful, impactful winter storm that could dump several feet of snowfall for the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast in California, and then this storm could trigger more heavy snowfall for the northern plains, and a big severe weather outbreak looks possible for the Deep South on Tuesday. If you're new and you really like these detailed weather updates, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and sharing this video with your family and friends on social media. Here's a look at the current satellite imagery from College Ado page on the storm system that is going to be impacting the West by this evening into Saturday and Sunday, bringing inches of rainfall, maybe some flooding, and a lot of snowfall that will be measured in several feet in the mountains of the Sierra. So we can see where the winter storm actually is. Here's a surface low up here. Here is the cold front that is dragging southward from the low. And then, of course, out ahead of this, we have a lot of cloud cover, rain, strong winds. In fact, a couple of weather buoys over here have already reported sustained winds of over 50 miles an hour already. So the winds are kicking there off the coast of Oregon and northwestern California. So I'm going to go into as much detail as I can possible for you all, because this is going to be a very impactful winter storm, especially late tonight all the way through Saturday for much of the West, bringing several feet of snow, inches of rainfall that could really lead to a lot of problems. And of course, we are looking at some very strong wind gusts of over 70 miles an hour in some areas. So let's time this out, and then it gets into the high plains, which could even be more significant than what we first thought. So this is Saturday morning, and we can see this is a system on how it will look on the European model. Lots of moderate to heavy snowfall, blizzard conditions, whiteout conditions, certainly a possibility. And then, of course, low elevation, heavy rainfall for the Central Valley, for portions of Oregon and Washington there along the coast. And then, of course, this is going to continue to spread inland by Saturday afternoon, impacting the Sierra. Look at the dark blue on your screen there. That is an indication we have moderate to heavy snowfall that is going to be focused up there. In fact, I'm even surprised they have not issued blizzard warnings out of this, because there could be 7+ feet of snowfall in that area, such as Reno, if you are in, say, Lake Tahoe, if you're in Bear Valley, Yosemite. Boy, some of the higher elevations, really dicey tomorrow. Stormy Saturday, we call it, for California and Nevada. And that's going to continue to spread further east all the way to Monday. And then eventually getting into the Rockies by Monday. And look at this. We have quite a bit of activity going on here, all the way in the Four Corners, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, moderate to heavy snowfall anticipated, and then the surface low redevelops on the other side of the Rockies. Look at this. By Tuesday afternoon, very dynamic system. We have very strong winds on this. A bombing cyclone cannot be ruled out here. We are talking about light to moderate or to even heavy snowfall. Those isobars very tight on the European, which indicates we have a strong pressure difference. We're going to see some serious winds out of this as this gets on the other side. This is 105 hours out, and this is Tuesday afternoon. And speaking of that, we also have the threat for severe weather down to the south here. Big time severe weather. We're going to be looking at the dynamics here in a little while in the video, towards the end of it, for those people that are very curious about how this is going to pan out. But we're looking at a pretty big severe weather event coming up on Tuesday and even into Wednesday. So we could be looking at a couple of days here for large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes for the Arklatex, the Mislatex area, including for Alabama. I might even include that for Georgia as that cold front and that low pressure system track further east. Very dynamic system. I mean, one of the most dynamic systems so far this winter season, and we can just see how massive this thing is. It is going to really cause problems, and eventually it might cause even more problems for more heavy snowfall for the northeast. But again, that is really far out in time. We don't know exactly how that's going to pan out, because the models are going to change significantly. And we can see from the 0Z run yesterday to the 12Z run today on the European, there's been a track further southward, and we'll see if this continues. But right now, as it stands, there could be some winter weather impacts there for the northeast by the end of of next week. The US GFS model is a little different on this evolution, especially further out in time. It has the same scenario for the West, for California. We can see how this all pans out for that region. So we're looking at moderate to heavy snowfall through Sunday, through Monday, blizzard conditions, strong winds, thunderstorms, that sort of deal. And then this gets into Colorado and Utah by Monday afternoon, and then eventually severe weather on the GFS model with very heavy snowfall, blizzard conditions, certainly a likelihood here for the northern plains by Tuesday and Wednesday next week. And this storm will continue to trek along into the Great Lakes, but you can see here the GFS model by Thursday and Friday really has nothing for the Northeast. So we went from something like this on the European model literally for Friday mid-afternoon to this nearly the same time. So there is a lot of model spread as far as who is going to get the heaviest snow or if that scenario is even going to develop. But right now, confidence is increasing for a high plains or more so of a northern plains and deep south weather event that could be substantial. Snowfall totals anywhere between could be definitely measured in feet here, especially for the Sierra. We could be looking at snowfall totals up inwards of 6 feet in the higher elevations. Isolated areas would not be surprising to see 7 feet in isolated locations. And of course, over here in Wyoming, in the Dakotas, in Montana and Nebraska, there could be snowfall amounts reaching perhaps even 2 feet in some areas. That is a lot of snow. There's going to be blizzard conditions. We're going to have winter storm warnings. There's going to be a lot of issues with this winter storm, or a lot of impacts, I should say, including for the Great Lakes by the middle of this coming week. So stormy for the West and for the northern plains, and also for the deep south. Snowfall totals on the GFS are a little lighter. They're not as aggressive. The GFS has backed off on how much snowfall will actually accumulate. Just a few model runs ago, if you go from the 18Z yesterday, it was looking at quite a bit of snowfall. Even the 0Z GFS was pretty consistent, and then the last couple of runs, it has really peeled back on these snowfall totals, and we'll see if that trend does continue. But as it stands now, still a significant winter storm by all standards for the northern plains of the U.S., and of course for California looks to be a very substantial threat. Now, rainfall totals on the European model, quite a bit of rainfall measured in inches, of course. So we're looking at 1 to 3 inches for the Central Valley, for the foothills up to 5 inches up across the coastal range mountains here of California, maybe as much as 2 to 5 inches of rain. And of course, for the deep south and for the southeast, we can be looking at as much as 3 to 5 inches of rainfall through Thursday. That's through the next 6 or 7 days. GFS model, a little more aggressive over California for more rainfall. Some areas could get even 5.5 inches, while less aggressive here for the southeast through Thursday. So now, our winter storm severity index, I really want to look at this because this is really, really something, okay? I don't use this in my videos very often just because we don't see these type of systems very often, but when we do, I love showing this. And we can see over Northern California, these areas in red and purple, that indicates major to extreme impacts. And I mean, travel is not advised in the extreme category, and road closures are very likely in that category. So we can see going all the way down from Lassen Peak all the way further south, you can see the mountains here are going to be very treacherous, almost impassable. Any roads going up into the mountains will be closed potentially. We can see avalanches. I'm not saying this just to scare you all. Look it up on the National Weather Service in Reno. They have issued avalanche watches and warnings for this reasoning, because there's going to be just so much snow that comes down out of this, and this goes all the way further south. So extreme impacts are anticipated, including for some of the Cascades here of Washington and Oregon. You could see moderate to major impacts out of this winter storm. All right, that's how big this thing actually is. And then eventually we will see if more impacts get issued here for the northern plains by in the next couple of days as models get fine-tuned. All right, so therefore the National Weather Service has issued winter storm warnings, wind advisories, storm warnings, high wind watches for California, for the Pacific Northwest. I mean, this is a wintry mess, bizarreness going on all the way here. All right, we already have winter storm watches, that is, I believe. Yeah, winter storm watches already for the Dakotas. So they're on the gun with maybe seeing at least a foot or more of snow in that region. But boy, oh boy, folks, this is really, really something. Actually, those are flood watches. Okay, we got flood watches for Southern California with this, just to show you how far south the impacts will actually extend from this winter storm as it nosedives into California all the way through the weekend. All right, so we talked about this winter storm side of things, the snow, the rain, the wind, and road travel if you're going to the mountains. Now let's talk about the severe weather aspect of things, because yes, there is going to be a pretty big risk for a couple of days. That includes for Tuesday through Wednesday. Now it looks like the severest weather will take place. So looking at the European model here, we can see with what it's showing here, this is the 500 millibar Jetstream upper level wind chart, and we can see where our trough is back west. That is really strong divergent flow aloft. I mean, that is pretty formidable. All right, and so as that gets into California, it is also going to eject into the Rockies, into the Four Corners. There we go. So by Monday night into Tuesday morning, we can see there is your trough ejecting off the Rockies, and wow, wow, wow. My goodness, that is very, very dynamic. The jet is right here. You can clearly see it here moving into the high plains, and then going all the way out into Wednesday. Wednesday early morning, look at that jet wrapping all the way around that upper level low pressure system right here, like a bowling ball moving off the Rockies. And so therefore we're going to have fairly strong dynamics for at least a very organized severe weather event. As we take a look at the low-level wind pattern, we can see winds anywhere between 50 to 65 knots in the low levels. So this is at around 5,000 feet above the surface. If you guys are curious, in the Arklatex in the Missouri area, very strong low-level jet is going to be in place, and this is going to really lead to a lot of problems. Okay, we are talking about a lot of directional and speed shear here, very similar to with what we had nearly a couple of weeks ago. So this is setting up to be a very similar event. When we take a look at the surface winds coming in out of the south and southeasterly direction, you can see it right here. And if we get enough overlapping of instability and enough lift or forcing for ascent here along the boundary, we will see a very substantial risk for severe weather all the way from southern Missouri into Arkansas, into Louisiana and Texas. The Arklatex, the Mislatex area could really see an outbreak of severe weather. As far as instability goes, not very good. Okay, we're looking at poor instability in a way. Cape values generally under 1,000 joules on the European model, but if we look at the GFS model, it's a little bit more impressive, but a little further south here. So it's about how much instability is going to be able to advect northward, because we know the kinematics are very favorable. We know that there is in play. It's just the amount of thermodynamic profiles, the instability, the cape, the temperature gradient, how much dew points, how high those get further north you go. Because as you know, we do have a strong jet here, and it's a matter of what goes on in the thermodynamic standpoint department. Okay, right now the GFS is more bullish at showing 1,500 joules of cape, while the European model is a lot more generous at showing less than 1,000 joules of cape. So it is still tricky and murky in the forecast exactly how big this event could evolve. Dew points, here's a look at those. You can see dew points, a lot of moisture is going to try to advect all the way into central and northern Arkansas, with dew points at least 55 degrees or greater. Into the Louisiana area, deeper south, further south into the warm sector, dew points might be able to climb into the mid to upper 60s out ahead of this dry line as it surges rapidly further eastward with strong winds behind it. Okay, so that's, as far as severe weather goes, that's what we're looking at here. And this is going to be my area of most potential for any severe weather on Tuesday. If we take a look at the Storm Prediction Center, that is very similar as far as the severe weather standpoint goes. There is a 30% chance, the second time already in literally a month, that there has been a 30% chance for severe weather in this same region. And so it will be interesting to see how this one pans out versus our last severe weather event that was pretty big. So we have a 15% chance for the Louisiana area, into, say, portions of Mississippi, southern Arkansas, and easternmost portion there of Texas, okay? Once again, we are talking about any discrete supercell. If it's able to establish itself, we could see strong tornadoes out of this. I'm not trying to go ahead of myself, but the dynamics, things are lining up in a way that would support long-lived supercells. Some of them could be strong and could produce a very substantial large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. All right, that's a look at that. So now that we reviewed this, again, I just wish for the best for people. Please be careful out there on the roadways because, again, we are talking about a storm system, folks, that is going to bring a lot of big impacts to the west. We talked about that, and of course, the Rockies going to see a lot of snowfall out of this. We're talking about a bombing cyclone potentially with a lot of snowfall for the northern tier of the U.S., with a lot of rainfall to the south along that cold front, where we might see, again, a big-time severe weather event on Tuesday into Wednesday. So please keep that in mind as the model trends continue to come better and aligned. But as it stands right now, this is looking like a very big system for the plains by the early to the middle of next week. Now, if you did like today's weather forecast and discussion, please consider subscribing right now if you haven't already. Hit the like button and share this video, please, with your family and friends on social media. Let's get this out to thousands and thousands of people because we're looking at millions. I mean, we're looking at millions of residents that are going to be impacted by this winter storm. This is nothing small at all, so make sure you do share this with your family and friends on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Get the word out there because this is really looking substantial. All right, that's going to do it with this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with you more soon with more weather content.